Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live. It's February 5th, 2026, Thursday chill. Although it might be hard to be chill about the files, but we have to be, right? We have to be chill about everything. We have to regulate our nervous systems and we have to stay in for the long fight, right? We can't crash out early. And so I wanted to come on here to talk about some new information I got from my guides about the files and the bigger picture. So welcome everybody. Please let me know where you're streaming in from. And my lives are chill in that we don't argue. There's no yelling. There's no all caps. There's no. I've got great mods. If you're one of my mods and you're here, can you let me know? Someone said it's chill where they are because they have week-old snow. That's really chilly. I love snow. I miss snow. So let me know where you're from. I'm in Long Beach, California. All right, we got Washington, D.C., ARG, Colorado. Let's see who's here today. Nova Scotia. Welcome, Nova Scotia. Sister Canada. Brisbane, Australia. Sister Australia. Down under. Santa Fe, Milwaukee, Minneapolis. Woohoo, Minneapolis. We're so proud of you. Milwaukee. Oh, you became a channel member. Thank you, Marianne. West Michigan, snowy West Michigan. Now, what part of Michigan is Battle Creek in? I spent my summers in Battle Creek. It's not Western. It's more like, I think that's Eastern, right? Northeastern. Asheville. Is that Asheville, North Carolina? Southern Illinois, Indiana, Albuquerque. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Let me know where you're from. So I'm going to talk today about the files. So I did a couple videos yesterday and maybe the day before. I can't remember. About the newest information I got from my files. From my guides about the files. So just kind of for people who don't know, if you're new to me, I'm a psychic medium, a medical intuitive, and a precog. So I'm able to see into the future. And the way that I work is I work with guides in different dimensions. And so I travel out of my body and I commune with different guides at different places. Places is a weird word for, where I go, but it's not really physical places, but let's say energetic places where I go and get information. And I generally get whatever information they want to give me. The question I always ask them when I go into a trance is, what information do you have for me that would be helpful for me to share with the people? And that's my general question. But then I also sometimes specifically ask about certain topics. I mean, I often do that. So like yesterday I said, listen, do you have any information about the files that I could share? Because we're getting so much, we're hearing so much about them from this newest tranche of files. Excuse me. And I always want to get information that's relevant, right, to what people are really, whatever the newest crisis is, right? Like we have so many. Last week's crisis is not this week. Sometimes yesterday's crisis is not today's crisis. And if you're living in the United States, you know what I'm talking about. It's just nonstop drama over here. But sometimes it's important to talk about what the most recent, drama/trauma is. And one of the things that, my guides have been saying for the longest, and I've been saying for the longest, is that we cannot stop talking about these files no matter what else happens. We have to always keep talking about this and keep asking about it. Even though, we've got somebody in the office who's starting wars with other countries without permission from anybody, without anyone's authorization, and, targeting, people on the streets. And there's just all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But we still have to keep talking about the files. We got an owl in the room. Hoot, hoot. And I think that's an older, wiser lesbian, right? Did I say that right? Yeah, I'm from my grandparents were from Battle Creek. We got Crystal Lake, Illinois in here, Central Texas, Leamington, Maine, Lexington, Kentucky, and Eastern Tennessee, Philadelphia. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Tucker, Georgia, Arkansas, New York, Sacramento, New Hampshire, Walla Walla, Washington. I used to live in Washington. I've lived in a lot of places. Portland. Okay, LA. We got some local folks. Not too many. Yeah. So let me first review some of what my guides told me about the files. Some of this I've shared in my video yesterday, but I have a lot more to share today that I haven't shared yet. But I thought I should probably share all of it and not assume that you've already watched that video. Sometimes I do just assume everybody here has already watched my other videos, but you may have had better things to do yesterday. So let me go over it a little bit. We got 279 people in here. And thanks to my mods for always keeping it peaceful in here. Portland, Delaware, Cleveland, South Carolina. Okay, so let me go look at my notes. So what I do is I go into an altered state and I meet with my guides, and then I dictate, like I speak aloud the information that they're sharing with me into, a recorder, and then I transcribe it. And that way I don't have to remember it all, because, when you're in a different state of mind, like when you go into a trance, like I do, you're in a different state, and your consciousness is not in the same, time and place. And in order to be really receiving, like channeling, you have to, you just have to be in a different frame of mind. And so sometimes when you're doing that, you don't necessarily remember it all. Or you might, when you get out of it, start to like translate it into more rational English, or, English that you're more familiar with. And so this is why I record it. Now I want to say a little something about this right here. I don't usually talk about my process much, but I feel like maybe I should, because I never do. And maybe you're interested, and maybe it's useful to know. You can let me know in the comments whether or not that's the case. But I have a kind of unusual way of working, from what I've, from when I compare the way I work to a lot of other people that I know, other, mediums and psychics. It does seem to be the case that I have a different way of working. Also, my guides did point this out to me many years ago. They said that it's not usual for people to go in and out of their body as much as I do in order to do the work that I do. So like, in order to be in a like trance state, and then at the same time to speak through the body, requires kind of this movement in and out, because it relies on my brain, and my capacity for speech, my knowledge of rhetoric, my, poetic sense, combined with my ability to receive and to have these kind of super conscious conversations. Because when you're talking to guides, you're not speaking, with a voice, and you're not speaking entirely with language, And so whatever you receive from a discarnate being, you have to translate into whatever language you're using. Now that's one way to do it. If you're like a regular like a medium, that when we usually use the word medium, psychic medium, we mean someone who kind of gets information and translates it. Now, if you're a trance medium, a trance channel, then it's possible for spirit to use your vocal cords and speak entirely through you. And when they do that, what you'll notice is that the person has a change in their like appearance and their voice. And they will use different phrasing than that person uses. But if you notice with the way I work, well, you don't often see the way I work, but a lot of my videos I do take a lot of language directly from it. The phrasing is mine to some extent, but it's also theirs. It's a mixture. So it's a little bit it's a little different from channeling, and it's a little different from psychic mediumship. So that's how I work. And so I record basically these conversations I'm having. Um, and so let me start at the beginning. My question to them was, what do we need to know about the files? So here was my full question. Asking for assistance from a higher perspective, what do we need to know about the e-files? And so I'm just going to start. I'm going to read some of this today. So there's a whole lot of people who are involved in trying to keep them secret, kind of like guardians. Blondie, and I'm changing some of the names, to my character names, is just the lead person. She's under a lot of pressure by a lot of people. She's wanting to keep them a secret herself. So she has her own personal reasons, either because she's in them or because, I'm not reading the whole thing now, I'm paraphrasing. Either because she's in them or because she's close to someone in them, or she's very afraid of the people who are threatening that if anything happens to these files, something's going to happen. So they talked about how there were a lot of different checks and balances, a lot of different people who are invested in keeping this a secret, a whole lot of people, a network of people around the world. And so I talked about this in my earlier video, how they're like dominoes in a game, and not in a game, but like in a design, like someone has created this elaborate design of dominoes, and they're all connected. And if you knock one down, it might knock others down. And there are these different categories. This is what I talked about earlier. There are these different categories of people who are trying to make sure that their dominoes don't get knocked down. And so right now, what I had said, which we're now seeing today already, what I had said yesterday, the guide said, is that there are all of these different people, right, with their different, involvement in this network of bad traffic, who are finagling things right now to determine who's going to be exposed and who isn't. And so the name that I use for them is power brokers. And the term power broker refers to people who are above the bad traffic part of it, but above it. And so there's these layers, right? So we have like the circus, and then we have other circuses in places like Is Not Real and Rasputin Land, right? And these circuses are connected, right? So there's like a political network, and then there's a bad traffic network, right? That's global, and it's connected to these political networks. And then we have economic networks, right? So the wealthy merchants, and all of these networks are intertwined. And then we have these, what I'm going to call overlords, who are in charge of everything, and it's all connected. So this is something I've been talking about for a while, but now it's like they're giving me more detail about it now that it's coming out, right? So if you've been watching me for a while, I started saying, I don't even know how long ago now, I don't really keep track of my predictions, but one of the things I started talking about a long time ago was that the finagling of the circus was directly connected to a global network of bad traffic, and it was directly connected to these two countries in particular, the Not Real one and the Land of Vodka, right? And then it was all connected to the bad traffic, and then it was also all sponsored by the wealthy merchants. So I used to talk about the seven thieves in my early story about Naked Emperor and the seven thieves. The seven thieves were the sponsors of the circus who brought the circus to town. They provided the funding. In the case of one of those sponsors, Starboy, he provided the actual satellite digital finagling that made the seating of the king possible, even though tickets were not put in for the king, right? So it's all connected. So I started talking about this a long time ago, and I think maybe maybe people are like, well, it's kind of out there. But now we're seeing the evidence, right? Now the files are coming out. We're seeing more and more evidence that indeed there is this global network. Now, we haven't yet seen the evidence that it's connected to the finagling. We're still waiting for that part. But we do see Starboy in the files. So we're getting closer, right? Because he's now in the files. Now what they said to me about the dominoes was that the overlords, and I just use character names. If you're new to my channel, I use character names I tell stories. I don't use a lot of real names. So if you don't know what a name means, ask in the comments and someone else will tell you. So the overlords right now are jockeying and maneuvering and debating behind the scenes to determine who's going to be exposed and who isn't. So that's what I said in my earlier video, right? And already today we're seeing that, right? We're seeing, I think I try to take some notes, all of the people who are being exposed, right? So, oh, I'm not going to talk about that yet. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But there's all of these people being exposed. And then there's a whole lot of other people who are not being exposed, right? So if you look at the files, there's a lot of redactions. The redactions were supposed to be of survivors, victims, right? But in fact, they have revealed the names and photographs with faces of actual victims, which is just so tragic. It's so awful to re-victimize people like this. So they've done that. And at the same time, they've redacted the names of lots of the perpetrators, but not all of them. So, right, it's like, oh, why are some revealed and some aren't? Why, according to what my guide said, is because the people with the most power, the what they're calling the overlords, are deciding who to sacrifice and who to keep. And so certain people are being thrown out like bones, throwing out bones to the wolf. And I do like to play with language. So dominoes are called bones. And so when I say they're throwing out bones, it's also like when you're playing dominoes and you throw out bones. Oh, we got 452 people in here. Awesome. So, and I know you might be saying, who are these overlords? That sounds so weird and mysterious and conspiratorial. But that's how it is when you work with spirits. Sometimes you don't understand what they're telling you, but I have to faithfully report it anyway because that's my job, right? And so let me stop here and do my PSA. This is for entertainment purposes only, and allegedly these are not my opinions. These are just, visions I've had from my guides and for a story that I'm telling. So I get information and I share it. That's my job. And I have to find a way to share it that's beautiful, that's easy to understand, that's accessible. That's my job. And I also have to make sure that I share it in a way that produces hope and adds to people's understanding. I'm not meant to share stuff that's scary or that's going to trigger people or re-traumatize them. And so you will not hear me in any of my videos talking about the really horrible details of what goes on in these networks of bad traffic. I'm not going to do that because I don't want the survivors. I don't want anyone who listens to me who is a survivor to have to deal with that. There are other people doing that work, and I'm really glad they're doing that work. There are people who are going through the files in detail and discussing in detail all the horrible crimes and all the people who are incriminated. And that's really important work, and we need that work to be done, and I'm grateful for those people, but it's not my work. My work is to provide some information about the spiritual significance, the bigger picture of the political situation we find ourselves. And so when I ask my guides about the files, what do they tell me? They're telling me about the bigger picture. So that's why they're using the word overlords. They're like, when we look at this network of extremely powerful, wealthy power brokers, right? These who are mostly men, and a few other women and maybe even other genders. I haven't been told that, but I'm mostly seeing men, right? It's patriarchal, right? Patriarchal, it's capitalist. It's a particular type of structure that has been created in our world. That when we look at that, the people who have the most power are now jockeying with regard to these files to determine who's going to be exposed and who isn't. And so, of course, part of the motivation you may have noticed is they're trying to expose blue hats first, or they're trying to expose people who are more progressive or left leaning. And so like the UK Prime Minister and the diplomat who are now in trouble over there are Labour Party people, right? So there's an effort to do that. It's not going to work, of course, because there is no party associated with PDFery. It's a criminal mindset that transcends political party. But that's the effort, right? There's an effort to paint it a certain way. And one thing I want to point out, in case people don't know this, is that Head Clown was a blue hatter his whole life, and he only switched parties to run for office because he thought that particular group of people would be easier to lie to. Yeah, he was a blue hat the whole time he was committing these crimes, and so were a lot of his friends, and that's completely immaterial and irrelevant. You got to laugh. You got to laugh at some of this nonsense. That's one of the things I've been tasked with too, is, helping people to keep their spirits up, stay hopeful, laugh, even when we're talking about really, really difficult subjects like the files. Okay, so let me go back to my notes. So I covered some of that already in the last video. And so the interesting part that I wanted to talk about was the Head Clown. And I touched on this in the video I did, but I want to go into more detail. Because it's very exciting. They want him out. And so this is something I did see a while ago, that one of the predictions I made, I can't remember when it was, a couple months ago, was that there was going to come a time when people within his party, within the circus, were going to want to get rid of the Head Clown and take over the circus and take him out of it. And then we began to see a lot of infighting, right? The last few months. The first infighting was between Starboy and Head Clown. They were like best buddies, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And then we started to see fighting with Trader Point. I forgot what the code name is for them. You guys know what I'm talking about? Trader. Someone had another good name for it. Trader Point, USA. Then they had the big fight, right? And they were the ones that helped. They actually funded J6. They actually helped fundraise for the campaign of the circus. And there was a big falling out with them over the Land of Milk and Honey and over the files. And then, their person was eliminated. Now, that was another big, right, fracture on the right. And then more recently, we've had more people right inside the circus, kind of turncoating against Head Clown. Well, what they said this week is they're actually ready for him to go. He's become too much of a liability. And so when they said right, they're talking about these overlords, these power brokers. And a lot of them are in the shadows. We don't have names for them. I wasn't given any names for them. Some of them are that they did name were some of the wealthy merchants, the billionaires. And so we are starting to see a little bit of that. And of course, some of these people are being named, but only some of them, right? So we got, a certain Gatey Gate is named. Why that one and not other ones, right? Like where's Bozo the Clown, right? Teal Clown was named. Now, these are some of the people I identified many, many months ago as key players, key merchants in sponsoring the circus, right? Now everyone talks about them. But back when I was talking about them, it was not the case. I'm just saying. I mean, it's kind of rewarding for me to see the things that my guides say then become part of public discourse, because then it's like, okay, they were right. I can trust the information I'm getting because now there's more and more evidence for it. But it's also a little frustrating when I get information and then it takes like a month or two for it to become a part of the public discourse, because then I just feel like, come on, people, come on. How are you not seeing this? All right, but I digress. So, right, there are certain wealthy merchants who are being exposed, right? The dominoes are being shown, and others that are not. So Teal Clown has been exposed, I think just yesterday. Gate Clown has been exposed. Bozo the Clown, I have not heard about him being exposed. Put in the comments if I missed something about about Bozo the Clown. And if you're new to this, and you're confused about my character names, ask in the comments, and the community will tell you. But the names I use often sound like the names. um, Sometimes there's a metaphor, but so yeah, so someone's asking who Bozo is. Somebody tell them who Bozo is. Yeah, so someone's answering it. Thank you. Yeah, and someone's asking who's Teal Clown. So somebody answer that person too. It's better if you do than if I do, right? Because I'm at more risk. Yeah, so someone has answered the Bozo question. Okay, thank you. Did someone ask the Teal question? Answer the Teal question? Oh, I'm not paying attention to special super chat questions. I see one coming up. I'm gonna answer this one. Let's see what it says. From Lisa Skelton 1099. Thank you for the gift. I have heard some psychics say that beings come to Earth School to experience heavy, difficult feelings and even war. What do you think about that? Are we meant to evolve beyond all that? I am going to answer that because that's a really interesting question. So the way I work is I come on here to share whatever information I've gotten recently, and then I also like to answer questions. So it's not just me, talking about whatever. I like to know what you all want to know. That's interesting to me. And it's usually interesting to the community, right? We have 600 people here. So let's answer this question and then we'll get back to the files. But yes, I do believe that Earth is a school. That's the way it's been shown to me in my work. So one of the things that I do, or that I used to do, I'm actually on a sabbatical right now. I'm not seeing clients. So I have to always say that because I get so many emails from people who want me to do medical intuition and Akashic Record sessions, which I'm just not doing right now because my guides have me on a break from that because they want me doing this other work. So I'm writing books, I'm teaching classes, and I'm doing all of this like posting, working with the apocalypse. So everything else is on a break. The apocalypse has a way of interrupting our lives. Am I right? But as an Akashic Records reader, one of the things that I've been privy to is the pre-life conferences of a lot of people. So I've been able to go and sit in on the pre-life conference. And so when a soul is ready to incarnate, the way I see it is they're sitting on a cloud with their spirit teachers, their incarnation guides. These are guides that help them make decisions about when and how they're going to incarnate. And they have these conversations with their incarnation guides about what kind of body am I going to have, what gender, what race, what ethnicity, what religion, what disability or ability level, where in the world will I incarnate, during what time period will I incarnate. And these are all choices that a soul makes, and they make these choices. What family will I incarnate into, what kind of parents and siblings and whatnot. And we make these kind of we make decisions about these things in order to do two things: to fulfill our purpose, whatever our life purpose is for that incarnation, and also we do it to either fulfill contracts we have with other souls or to engage in any type of teaching or learning of lessons. And every little detail isn't planned out. We have free will, so it's not like everything, your life's not predetermined, but there are certain things in place to facilitate the things that you came here to do. And so yeah, people always have questions about why do we have to go through so many hard times. Those of us who are here right now, who have incarnated right now into the United States during this apocalypse, you chose this. I guarantee you this was not an accident, that you chose to be born into a time period where you would have to go through this. And that's because we're in a shift where we're shifting, we're transforming. It doesn't look like that right now. It looks like a lot of garbage and a lot of trauma, but we are in the middle of a shift. And you probably incarnated at this time because you wanted to help in some way, not because you wanted to suffer. So don't ever think that you were given this life, or you chose this life because you wanted to endure difficulties. No, the difficulties are sometimes helpful for what you came to do or for what you came to teach or learn. But it's not the case that you necessarily have to undergo difficulties. So that's my short answer Did I answer the whole question? Sometimes we have to experience heavy things. We don't have to experience heavy things, but sometimes we choose to on a soul level. So we don't choose to as individuals. I individually would never choose this. I would never choose to live through this period of time. I thought at this stage of my life, I was going to be on easy street. I'd already been through a lot. I thought we were going to be chilling now. So Jennifer Lisa would not choose this. So when I say we chose it, I mean on a soul level, in kind of cooperation with other wiser souls, there was a decision made that, hey, this might be a good opportunity for me as a soul to incarnate at this time, because maybe I could be of service. Maybe I could learn something. Maybe I could witness this shift in consciousness, right? There's some reason why your soul thought this might be a beneficial time to show up. Okay. Hope that's helpful. Let me go back to my discussion of the files. And if I'm missing a question, I'm sorry. I do look for these highlighted questions, but sometimes I miss them. Like here's one. Oh, it's not a question, but just a gift. Thank you for diametries. Metric. Oh my God, I cannot figure out your name. Diametric amplification. Got it. Thank you for your gift. That's a really long word. It reminds me when I was in the first grade and I was in the accelerated class. We had to learn how to spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Took us a few weeks. It was a lot of fun. Okay. So back to what I was saying about the files and the bigger picture. Let me go back to my notes. So there's all this wrangling, right? Who's going to be exposed? Who's not going to be exposed? And one of the things that came up is that people are kind of starting to encroach on him. That was the word that gave me, encroaching on him. Like he's being surrounded by more and more enemies. And there's more and more people who want to take him out or take him down. Those were two different expressions they used: take him down or take him out. So you can interpret those the way you want, but they want to do it to protect themselves and to protect the larger system, right? The overlords, they're trying to protect themselves. So he was more powerful than a lot of people, but he's losing some of his power. And when I asked, why is he losing his power? They said it's because the truth is coming out, but it's also because of his physical health. And it has to do with spirits or demons who are withdrawing their support from him because they realize they won't be able to use him much longer. And so they specifically mentioned people like Rasputin, who are thinking, well, do we really need him? Can't we work with other people? Noodle guy, Net Noodle, do we really need him? Can we work with Adolf Milkman? Or the corporations are like, do we really need him? Can we work with other people behind the scenes? And so these seven thieves, these seven thieves who helped to sponsor the circus are kind of meeting and trying to figure out, okay, we have to make sure, they said, that I lost my window. We have to make sure that people don't find out. There you are. That people don't find out the bigger structure. And so what they said was really clear was, yes, they didn't want people to find out about the bad traffic network. Now we know about it. But what they're more concerned with is that we find out about the bigger structure of power in the world that controls things. That's what they really don't want us to find out about. And so the power brokers, which include these wealthy thieves and some of these other like political leaders, are now having meetings behind the scenes to figure out, okay, how do we handle this, right? How do we handle this to make sure that the true structure of power is not exposed to the people, right? And so that's what's going on now. And that's why certain people are being thrown out and others are not. And so You know how it's taking them so long to release just half of the files, right? We've only gotten half of them. And you know they're releasing the least worst ones first, right? So that just tells you what's coming. And they've heavily redacted the names of the guilty. So that's what they've been busy doing, is behind the scenes trying to decide who to redact and who not to redact. Everyone didn't get redacted. Starboy's in there. Gates Clown is in there. Teal Clown is in there, right? The UK guy is right. There's a lot of people in there that whose names did show up. And then there are others who are heavily redacted. And so this is what's going on behind the scenes, all of these decisions about. So that these last several months, it took them forever to release these files. It actually took them the whole year, right, to release the files. That's what they were busy doing. They were busy trying to make decisions about who to expose and who not to expose. So here's another question from Zia Sciortini or Tino. Thank you for the gift. Could you please ask your guides about the Buddhist monks walking for peace across the southern United States? You know, I have not asked. People have asked me to ask, and sorry, I haven't asked. I think it's wonderful that that's happening, and I think it's really bringing people a lot of peace and joy. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not sure if I will or not. Yeah, so this is another part of it, according to Lemon Gelato, right? This is true. The felon's losing his control over his blackmailed victims as they're being revealed, right? So a lot of his power did come from that. A lot of his power did come from the files and his ability to keep that information under wraps. And, you know, I just heard something this week that I thought was very promising. It was something to the effect, it was, I think, by another psychic that, but referencing something they heard, that the madam who's currently incarcerated has some trove of videotapes. So, you know, Epi had all these videotapes. Everyone that came to his house and was partaking in criminal behavior with young people and also with adults were recorded, and that was used for The Male That's Black. And so all this time, I think we thought that the FBI had those recordings. I know they have some, but recently I heard that actually the madam has them stashed away somewhere, and that's why she's going to be able to get a deal, because she's threatening to release those. I think that's very promising, because that means there's yet another source. And this is what my guides were saying for a while, is there are lots of sources of files. It's not all in the DOJ. There's lots of people that have files, and it's just people are going to release what is beneficial to them. And so as more and more people get exposed, and there's more and more negotiation and jostling for power and redistribution of power, more and more stuff will come out, because as people get captured, like right now, that's what I wanted to mention, there are now criminal investigations happening in Sweden, Turkey, France, Norway, Australia, Lithuania, Poland, the UK, and I think I'm missing. Did I say Australia? I think there's a couple more that I'm missing. People are going down. And so as more and more people get captured, more and more deals are going to get made, right? So this is what my guides were saying, that they're going to, in the same way that the police kind of get small-time drug dealers and then get them to turn on their bosses, and then they turn on their bosses, right, to try to get the biggest person. That's what's going to be happening now with all of these criminal cases. You know, so like Mendelsohn in the UK, and then it was like, well, what about, you know, we don't just, am I saying his name, Mendelsohn? We don't just want Mendelsohn. What about the prime minister? Wasn't he the one that processed the hiring of this guy? And he's a bigger fish, right? So now people are like, maybe prime minister needs to step down, right? That's what's going to keep happening, at least in other countries. Not happening in our country, because we're a whole country of crooks right now. But hopefully that is going to change. I shouldn't say hopefully. We know that's going to change. It's just going to take longer here because we're in the belly of the beast, right? So the belly of the beast is, it's the last place that things come tumbling down. This is the epicenter. So it's going to happen on the periphery first. And so we're having all of these investigations in all these countries. That's going to lead to the exposure of higher ups, right? So for those who just stepped in, I'm talking about what my guides have shared about what's going on with the files and the bigger picture. Yes, exactly, Lemon Gelato. All of these criminal investigations will reveal so much electronic evidence. Discovery. Every time there's a case, there's discovery. I don't understand this question. Oh, right. Not that one. Oh, so this is somebody answering a question from somebody else. So I think someone must have asked about Epi. I did talk about this. I talked about it in my members only video, but I alluded to it in my public video about how my guides did not describe him as deceased, Epi. They said that he appeared to be deceased. So if people have a question about Epi, I know that there are different accounts. There are some psychics who are saying he's deceased, and some people are saying it was a cover-up, and there's different stories out there. And the only thing I've gotten from my guides is that he appears to be deceased. And the way that it was said gave me the impression that he was not. So like, here's the language they used. They were talking about Epi, and they said, let me go up to where he's brought up. Okay. So all of these 7 thieves are meeting and trying to figure out, how do we move forward? It's really important that the structure, the relationship between corporations and governments not be revealed. And that's actually more important to them than the traffic. So what they're really concerned about is making sure that people don't understand what the larger structure of global power is. And yeah, they would have rather people didn't find out that there were all these connections between Epi and sports and academia and business and government. But that guy's, quote, dead for all intents and purposes. That's the way they put it. He's dead for all intents and purposes. He's not a real person to a lot of people anymore because he's perceived as dead. So that's the language they use. So we can choose to interpret that how we want. And then they started talking about Head Clown. Maybe if he's dead, maybe if we get him out of here, right? Then these will be the 2 people that are seen as the architects. I guess there's 3 if we include the madam, assuming something. I mean, she's already in prison, but and they said, what we need is for people to stop looking and investigating, and they're going to keep investigating until somebody pays a price. And so there's this jostling going on now where the overlords are trying to determine, can we get rid of Head Clown? Because maybe if we sacrifice certain people, the people will be happy and they'll feel like, okay, there was some justice, and then they'll stop asking questions. And so like Epi, whether he is deceased or just appears to be, it serves the same purpose, right? In that it gives us a bad guy. There's a villain who was responsible for all of these crimes against women and children. And he's been punished. He was put in jail, and then he lost his life. And so maybe that's going to give people a feeling like, oh, the bad guy is no longer with us. And they're now saying that maybe Head Clown needs to be the other bad guy that gets sacrificed to give people that sense of closure of like, okay, these were the architects of the bad traffic, and now they've either been punished or dispatched or something, right? So they were talking about this in part to explain why Head Clown is no longer as popular as he was with these overlords. Part of it is because he's not as powerful, not as popular. The fact that he's no longer able to keep the files under wraps means he's kind of run out of, he's no longer as useful. He was very useful for that means. And he's also physically deteriorating. And so that means that he no longer has the same support of the demonic energies that were fueling him and giving him power. And that's a whole nother conversation. I know some people don't believe in demons. I didn't used to believe in them either. I don't like to talk about them that much. But unfortunately, my guides have brought them up in reference to Head Clown and the circus and where it gets some of its power from. And I think it's helpful sometimes to know these things to understand what we can't otherwise understand, because I know a lot of people are very confused about how are these people able to keep committing crimes and getting away with it and facing no consequences, and how do they keep getting away with stuff, right? One of the explanations that my guides gave was because they have all of this power. And the important part about that for us to understand as the people is that some of that power comes from suffering. And so that is why it is so important for us to try to minimize the suffering. And that's why it's important for us to do everything we can to keep our vibration out of fear, right? And to try to elevate our energetic and emotional profile. So like when we hear about these horrible, dastardly deeds, instead of focusing on fear, we can redirect our energy to compassion for the victims, right? Compassion, or we can have righteous rage where we want justice, we want a balance, we want good to prevail, right? And we can focus our energy in a certain way. When we do that, we don't feed into that suffering. And that's part of the purpose of these rings of bad traffic, is to produce suffering to feed that energy. And that's also what Frozen Water is about, right? It's not about immigration. It's not about crime. It's not about any of the nonsense that they say it's about. It is about suffering and fear and intimidation, because those emotions serve two purposes. One, they feed that demon energy, and two, they disempower the people. So when we feel afraid and terrorized and intimidated, then we don't feel empowered, and we don't feel strong, and we don't feel like we can unify and overcome. And so our job is to remember that no matter what we witness, no matter what we see, no matter what happens in this country, no matter how awful it looks, no matter how many horrible truths are told to us about dastardly deeds that have been done to innocent people, that we have to remember that we are powerful people, that we have sovereignty, and that we have the ability to win, right? We have to remember that no matter what. I know it's hard. But we have to remember that. They want us to believe that we are powerless. And so Minnesota is so important because it's giving the whole country an example of how it's possible for people who don't really have any power or any weapons to be successful against a very powerful, very violent, heavily armed group of domestic terrier dogs, right? It's giving us hope. It's making us believe in our power, right? To see what's happening there. The same is happening here in the city of Los Angeles. I mean, we got to see that lovely video of all those folks in Los Angeles on the 30th who moved a whole shipping container with their bare hands and blocked the entrance off to the popsicle crew and lit the dumpster on fire and threw garbage. I mean, it was a beautiful example of what it looks like when people recognize that they have power. They don't have weapons, right? They don't have might. They don't have they don't have the power, the powerful behind them. They don't have a structure behind them. They just had their unity and their righteous rage and their desire for justice and their desire to protect the innocent, their compassion. And together they were able to then do these things, just like the Minnesotans were, and the Philadelphians and the people in DC, right? It's been city after city where people have come together and demonstrated how powerful we are. And tell people in the comments they don't know what a terrier dog is. You can explain that to them. No, I did not. I just see a question here. Did I already speak about the ice? About the See, I try not to use those words. About someone being at the voting polls. I have not. I think this is another scare tactic. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not focused on midterms at all at this point. We have a long way to go before we get there. And so people who are really heavily focused on that, I think that's misguided. My guides aren't talking about them at all. We don't know if they're happening. We don't know where we'll be by November. We don't know if, you know, we'll be a republic. We don't know if, we don't know what's going to be happening then. And so I don't think we should focus too much energy on what's happening 8 months from now. We need to focus on today. We got enough to deal with right now without. And I think it's dangerous too to focus 8 months ahead, because there's a way in which people will just sit on their hands and say, well, I just got to make it to the midterms, and then we'll be able to turn this around. And that's one of the things my guides keep saying again and again and again, is that people need to get up and get busy. You can't just sit on your hands. And that comes in different forms. And so now let's take a moment to talk about, this is a good time to talk about Black History Month. Black people as a whole made a decision in November of 2024 to stay at home and to not be in the fray. And this has been a really powerful decision that has benefited everybody in the United States. It has saved a lot of lives, right? Because historically, for those who don't know, every social justice movement in the United States has been attributable in part to Black Americans. They've either started it, or they were the leaders of it, or they were the instigators of it. So like if we look at the women's movement, if we look at gay liberation, if we look at the Young Lords, if we look at American Indian movement, they all followed in the footsteps of the Black civil rights movement, right? And every movement, no matter what topic it's on, has always had Black people involved, and oftentimes in leadership positions. And this time, Black Americans said, no, we warned you all. We organized everybody before the joust. Black Americans, especially women, were the major people organizing to get out the vote and to educate people and to try to warn people about what would happen if the circus came to town. And people didn't listen, even though historically, if you listen to Black women, if you pay attention, they are always right. So everything that Black women in this country have ever warned the country about has always come to pass. All right. So just do your history, read your history, and become aware of this. And so what happened was, collectively as a group, the Black community said, okay, we're going to rest as resistance. We're not going to be on the street right now because we know what's coming. And also what a lot of these Black women leaders do is they read Agenda 25 Clowns, 25-year agenda. They read it and they talked about it and they planned. And so they were aware that the whole agenda was depending a large part on Black Americans. So the guy that authored the 25 Clown Agenda, he did his PhD or something studying Black social movements. And so he developed his whole white supremacist, authoritarian playbook by studying Black Americans. And so they were counting on being able to kind of manipulate the American people, because they understood the way social movements happen in the United States and how they're usually instigated and led by Black Americans. Well, that didn't happen this time. They got outsmarted by us. Black people said, we're staying home. And that fundamentally changed the nature of resistance, right? So what happened? Minnesota happened. Why did Minnesota happen? Because Black people stayed home. And because Black people stayed home, we had to get to this point. It took way too long. Okay, people, I just got to say, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it took this long. It's February. It's been a year. It took this long for palm-colored people to get to the point that they're at in Minnesota. And 2 people, palm-colored people, had to be murdered for this to happen. I personally, I mean, I'm sorry to have to say this, but I'm personally disappointed. I'm happy. I'm relieved it's happening. But for the last year, I've been like, come on, people, get up, get up. And that's because, right, there's a certain complacency, right? There's a certain complacency that palm-colored people have in the US where they're just kind of used to Black people being the ones, right? And when it didn't happen this time, people were kind of like, what do we do? And let me just explain why Black people stayed home. I'm going to give you some of my understanding of it. And you can weigh in the comments if you want to add to this discussion and you know more about this than I do. Then, if you're Black American and you want to put more in the comments, I'm Black, but I am mixed. And so I do kind of inhabit these border identities, right? So feel free to add to the discussion. Whenever Black people are out in the streets protesting, the police are extremely violent. And this has been going on for centuries. That's a whole other conversation too. And we saw it most clearly. I think palm-colored people saw it for the first time very clearly in the BLM movement in 2020, right? Because we had so many people come out to the streets of every hue and ethnicity and race. They were all in the streets together for Black Lives Matter. And people saw the violence that was targeting only certain segments of that population. So the people that were arrested and that were charged with federal crimes, the people who were imprisoned in that movement, they were all Black people, right? Almost all of them. Even though the movement was extremely diverse, they only targeted them. And so I think that was a wake up for a lot of people. But Black people have always known this, right? We always get targeted. I've been a victim of police brutality and I've been police profiled throughout my adult life. This is our reality. I've also been profiled as a Native person, but it depends on what part of the country and what they think I look like that day. But the worst, so by Black people staying home, what that did was, so it's unfortunately a truth about our country that the police are very comfortable brutalizing Black people and brown people, and they're not comfortable brutalizing white people, right? And so we can see how they're brutalizing Mexican Americans right now and brown-skinned immigrants and black-skinned immigrants, but they've only just recently started doing that to white people in Minnesota. Why? Because in Minnesota, it's like 99%, right? White. So if you want to brutalize someone, it's really hard to find anyone, right? In the crowd. You got to grab Don Lemon, right? And Gloria, what's her last name? Those 2 Black journalists who were arrested in Minnesota. They're like probably the only Black people in all of Minneapolis who were there at that church. Those are the ones, and 2 activists. They found 4 Black people to arrest. That's how it usually goes. So by Georgia Fort. Did I say Gloria? Georgia Fort, right? Say her name. This is one of the journalists that was arrested in Minneapolis for being at the church. Her and Don Lemon and 2 activists, right? There's like 4 Black people out of a sea of white faces. This is just a perfect example of how it usually happens. And so by Black people staying home, what has happened is that we've had these incredibly peaceful Kings 1.0 and 2.0, right? Police didn't brutalize anybody at those events. Where they got brutalized here in Los Angeles, because here in Los Angeles, it's a mixed crowd. It's very, very mixed. A lot of brown people in Los Angeles have been, at these dance parties, and it's been very, very violent. Okay. But for the most part, at most of these events where it's predominantly where you don't have any black people and you have very few brown people, and it's mostly just you know, white people, you don't have the brutality, right? And so it's kind of and so I just want to talk about that because it's Black History Month. And we have to stop and think about these things. We have to think about the role that race plays in the United States. I mean, the reason that Head Clown and Circus even came to town is because they ran a platform of YT supremacy. It's a really, really central part of their campaign for the last 10 years was that ideology. And so we can't just look at class. We can't just look at, some people just want, oh, everything is about class. Everything is about capitalism. Everything is about patriarchy. No, it's about those things. It's also about race. And so they were counting on Black people being at the forefront of this movement like they always have been. And because we have stayed home, now I've been on the streets. My family doesn't appreciate it. I've been on the streets a little bit. I try to be very careful. I'm not on the streets a lot with terms of dancing. But, I go out. When I went out to King's, I was in a costume for King's 2.0. I was in a polar bear inflatable. And I'm trying to look out my little window and I'm with my friend who's white. And I'm like asking her, I said, I don't see any Black or brown people out here. Is it because I can't see out of my costume? She said, no, there's none here. There's none here. Thousands and thousands of people. There's none here. I counted in the entire day that I was there 10 Black people at No Kings 2.0. And you probably noticed that at your No Kings, right? All right, so we got 788. Did I lose some people talking about race? Yeah, so I think this is one of the things that we do need to reflect on as a country. And if you're somebody who's really uncomfortable with hearing me talk about supremacist ideology and racism and using terms like Black and white, if you're really uncomfortable with that, then you really should seriously read some books or go to some trainings, anti-racist trainings, because if you're uncomfortable with it, it means you haven't fully dealt with it yet, right? If you don't want me talking about it or you don't want to hear about it, do some work. There's a great book called White Fragility that I recommend. There's one called, the anti-racist. No, I forgot the name of it. I forget the name of the books. Let me get to some more questions. I'm done with my Black History Month rant. Okay. Here's another gift. Thank you for the $10 gift from La 1011366. Super anonymous with no picture. Deep cover. Hi, Jennifer. You mentioned that you're a survivor of police brutality. Would you care to share more of that story with us one day? I'll share a little bit. It happened about 15 years ago. I was a professor at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, and I was police profiled by campus police, white police. I ended up being detained by 6 white officers and a dog. I have written about it, and so I have some articles out there you can read. That my article was called "What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger." And it was published, it was an academic article. So it was published in the Seattle Journal of Social Justice. If you're an academic, you can go on academia.edu and find it, and you can download it for free from my academia.edu's website. But I talk about it in detail. Okay. And yeah, I was targeted because of my perceived, race, and I was treated very badly, not just by the police, but by a whole structure. So the police chief defended their behavior. The president of my university defended their behavior. Said that I had that I didn't remember what happened to me. They called me the girl that cried wolf, the girl that cried rape, the boy that cried wolf, the girl that cried rape. Because I was an activist. They said, oh, she's always been an activist and she's spoken out against police brutality. And so why should we believe that she was a victim? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question. Dr. Domenico, thank you for your gift. Thank you, Dr. Vest, for all you do. Would you be willing to ask your guides what Kamala's new role will be? I see her not as a savior, but as a refined leader. I believe the lotus will bloom. I mean, a lot of us are excited, right? Because she put out some new thing on social media about, Kamala Harris headquarters, right? She did some post. I don't know if it was on TikTok or I think it was on TikTok or Instagram, right? Maybe both. And people were getting all excited. It's like, oh, is the Lotus Queen back? Is she back? So I haven't heard anything about her recently. Actually, she did come up recently. When did she come up? Now I can't remember. So I used to have a lot of visions about her, and then at a certain point, they stopped. At a certain point, I stopped seeing her giving the oath. And in fact, the last image I have of her giving the oath of office was there were fires burning around her, and there was like the White House was on fire, and there were like battles in the street. And I didn't share that vision for a long time. I think I mentioned it recently because what it seemed to convey to me was that when she finally was acknowledged as the true winner, it would only be after we had, as a country, had to start kind of fighting it out to that the people had to kind of rise up in order to get her acknowledged. And I didn't really like that image, and I didn't really want to talk about that because back then I didn't want us to have to come to that. I thought we could find a different way. I thought the truth could come out in an easier way. And it's kind of clear to me now that, we're not doing easy. we're not doing easy. Right. We're going through a lot. And the people do have to rise up to some extent. I'm not saying they have to rise up in any kind of a violent way. I'm not saying that. But it does have to be the people who make this demand, right? The fact that she is deciding to reappear, I think is very good news. And I can't help wondering if it means we're getting close to the end, because the fact that she feels safe to kind of reappear on the political stage makes me wonder if she isn't privy to how far along the destruction is in terms of the circus, how far along the destabilization of the circus is. So what my guide said this week, which I think is related to it, but it's not a direct answer to your question, is that they want Head Clown out. There are enough forces now that want him out, that either want him, they said, to be taken out or taken down, right? These are two options, right? That one of those things is likely to happen soon. And they're doing that because they don't want our attention focused on the global structure of power. They want us to focus on these individual villains, right? So like Head Clown has been our ultimate villain. He's been the villain we've all been focused on. Like, he's the bad guy. He's the orchestrator of all this. He's the one who's giving the orders to harm all of these people, these brown skin immigrants and citizens who have brown skin who can be called immigrants. And he's the one, right? He's the one that's destroying our institutions and taking away our civil rights. He's the villain. And so when we're all focused on a villain, then we might not notice the man behind the curtain, or rather the 25 men behind the curtain, right? We might not notice the structure of power behind the villain. And so they're talking now about getting rid of the villain because he's no longer useful in the way that he was. I think that's very exciting. I think that's very good news. And I think it's connected to Lotus Queen. Once he's removed, then it becomes a lot easier there's then a pathway, right, for her to return. But I haven't gotten anything specifically about her recently. But I am going to ask. So thanks for your question. Thank you to Kristen Lee for your super sticker. Thank you to everybody who sends me super stickers and gifts. And thank you to people who subscribe to me, who are members, who belong to my Patreon, who send me a cup of coffee. I just want to thank all of you. Because of what you do, I feel encouraged to be able to continue to devote a lot of time to this and not to stress about paying the bills, because I was doing this for a year and it was not, there was no income related to my posting for an entire year. There was no income. And I was just doing it because my guides told me to, but it was a hardship for me in terms of taking a lot of time away from what I do for work, which is, create courses and write books and do things like that. And so, when you guys do this, like give me these wonderful gifts, it helps me to do this work. So I appreciate it. Cindy Butler, thank you for the super sticker. Very generous. And I'm just looking for questions. I have more to say about what my guide said. But I do like to stop and answer questions. Here's that name. I'm not going to get the name again. Diametric amplification. I did it. Thank you for your gift. Should we boycott paying federal taxes? Our money is being stolen by the circus while they do horrible things. I do think that's a great strategy. What my guides keep telling me is that we have so many ways to persist, and the movement of persistence takes many forms. And we all have to figure out what's the best way for us, the way that utilizes your gifts and takes into account your risk level. Like I can't be in leadership or out front at all the dance parties. I have played a leadership role in some organizing. I have been at some dance parties, but that can't be the major work that I do, because my guide said to me, if you get taken out, detained, arrested, brutalized, unalived, you won't be able to do the work that we want you to do, which is this work, right? And so that's not the best use of my gifts, is being on the front lines. So I am occasionally on the front lines just because I'm a lifetime activist and it's very hard to stay home. But I cannot do that all the time. I have to use my gifts in the best possible way to help the maximum number of people. So we all have to figure that out for ourselves. What can you do? What are all the things that you can do to maximize your contribution to the persistence, given your particular skills, given your particular demographic situation, the state of your body, the state of your finances, right? What can you do? We all have to figure that out. None of us has the option, though, of saying, "Oh, I can't persist because I'm poor, or because I'm this, or because I can't leave the house," or right. We all have things that we have to do. I have kids, or because, right. That's not an excuse. We can all find a way. We can do things from home. We can do things remotely. There's something that we can all do. Thank you to Zia Sciortini for your gift. I already answered that one. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I haven't asked yet about the monks, but I'm really glad they're out there. And okay, so I'm going to get back. I forget who I've acknowledged already. Thank you for the super sticker, Cindy. I don't know if I already acknowledged you. But I want to talk more about what my guide said just this week about the bigger picture. Okay. Here's another question. Ray Vet, thank you for your gift. Do you think the TG Doc has contests? I don't know what this question means. Who's the TG Doc? TG Doc. And contest shenanigans sounds like something that happens in a place. But TG Doc doesn't sound like a place. It sounds like a person. So, or are you asking, does that person have evidence of the shenanigans? Okay. Let me see if the person, if Ray Vet can tell me. Oh, okay. They just told me who TG Doc is. Oh, okay. Look in the comments to see who it is. It's so there's a herb. There's an herb called holy basil, and I think her name is another name for holy basil. Does that help? I don't know. I have not gotten any information about holy basil TG Doc, so I can't answer that question. Here's another suggestion by Amy Grogan. Professor G from Pivot Podcast suggested an economic strike with streaming services and things like Amazon to unsubscribe from. So yeah, we have a lot of boycotts going on. Now, I don't know. I do feel like a strike from all streaming services could be a problem because people are so stressed out that they need downtime and they need to like watch shows. But selectively, right, boycotting certain ones. Here's a suggestion by Lemon Gelato. Check on your elderly neighbors who might be overwhelmed and afraid to leave the house. Yeah, there's a lot of people afraid to leave the house right now. Anyone who's brown or black or transgender or an immigrant. Yeah, so here's someone weighing in, Nisi6273, on what I was saying about Black Americans staying home. Our ancestors told us to sit out because we tried to tell them. So yeah, Black women especially tried to warn everybody, and people are saying that the ancestors are saying, no, you're not going to be sacrificed this time. So we've Black Americans have allowed ourselves to be sacrificed for generations in order to help the evolution of this country. And this time, people are saying, not this time. It has to go differently this time. And it's going to benefit all of us. Yeah, for those who know about herbs, that's another name for holy basil. Okay, so back to what I was saying about my guides. I hope I answered all the questions that I could find that people were urgent. Okay. So one of the things they were also talking about is how it's so important for us to get very organized and very specialized. Like there are some people who are good at some things and some at others. And we all have a role to play and we have to get organized because there's so much going on that it's really easy to get overwhelmed and distracted and be like, oh, I'm working on this today and then I'm working on that tomorrow. And then, oh, am I doing Popsicle Crew stuff? Am I doing files? Am I doing Venezuela? Am I doing Greenland? Right? What am I focused on? What type of persistence activities? Are we doing a boycott? Are we doing taxes? Are we doing dance parties? Are we writing songs? Are we doing posting online? Are we doing Whistlemania? Are we doing writing to reps? Like, what are we doing? And what they said is we have to get organized, that there's enough people. There's so many of us, right? The population of the US is huge. And the number of people who are anti-circus is huge. Like I was told recently by my guides that it's half of the population that is committed to persistence. And then there's like another, there's like 1/4 that's still apathetic. That's just like sitting at home saying, well, right. I don't know. Right. Or I'm not going to get involved. I'm not political. Right. And then there's 1/4 that is circus leaning or circus sympathetic or vaguely pro circus, and then within that there are some really heavily pro circus, like Gestapo shaped people and YT supremacists. Like those people are always going to be pro circus, right? But that we have half that are already committed to the persistence and another 1/4 that we could get if they just wake up. But out of those half that are pro persistence, not all of them are actually doing anything, or they're not doing enough, or they're not consistently doing things, right? And so a lot of people are saying, oh, I can't do that, or I can only do this. And it's really not true. So, like one of the things I've been doing this last couple of weeks is something called Whistlemania. And I've been talking about it because it's something that most people can do, right? Now, obviously, if you can't leave your home, if you have mobility issues, and you can't leave your home, then you might not be able to participate in it unless you can get the organizers to bring the supplies to your house and let you do it in your house, which I think is possible. Like you could have people come to your house and you could host a Whistlemania party in your house if you can't leave your house, right? But basically, Whistlemania started in Chicago. People in Chicago started getting whistles and blowing whistles to alert their neighbors about the presence of Popsicle Crew. And then people started to mass produce whistles and pass them out. It has spread to lots of other cities. It's in Philadelphia. I heard from someone today that it's in Virginia. It's in DC. It's in Los Angeles, and it's in my part of Los Angeles, which is Long Beach. And so Indivisible over here is one of the organizations I work with, and there's Indivisible chapters all over the country. So look for the one near you. There might be one near you. They're having these gatherings where we get together for a couple of hours, and we compile these Whistlemania packs. And they have a whistle in them, and they have information about who to call if you see frozen water, and then different resources, and then knowing your rights if you're an immigrant. And after all of these packets are created, so what you do is you go to this meeting, you like fold up the paper in a special way, and then you wrap up the whistles and you stuff them in these things. So I went to one last night, and it's great. There's like 100, 200 people there that are, a lot of them are from the local area, neighbors, and get to know people. And then after we create these things, then there are also events to distribute them, and they're being put like in stores and nonprofits. They're being passed out to neighbors, or just distributing them to as many people as possible, so that we have these kind of brigades of whistleblowers to alert and protect people. So like that's something you can do that's not high risk. Like if you're someone like me who's at high risk because of my appearance, I can go to an event like that and I don't have to worry about my physical safety, right? And so there are things like that you can do where if you're worried about your physical safety because you belong to a demographic that's being targeted, like you're trans or you're gay or you're brown or black or red, then, go to a Whistlemania. If you're somebody who doesn't have the physical stamina to like go dance in the streets, there's so many other things to do like this. You can also host these kind of things in your house, right? Or something, and if it's not a Whistlemania, it's something similar, right? Maybe you're hosting a tea party where you invite all your friends over to write letters. Or maybe you're inviting your friends over to make signs that you then give to people who are dancing. Maybe you're inviting people to your house to write letters to the editor for your local paper. Maybe you're writing to your governor or your mayor. Maybe you're creating posters or informational flyers that somebody else is going to distribute. You're just going to make them in your home because you can't leave the house, right? There's just so many ways. Maybe you're making phone calls. Okay, so, someone's got kazoos. I love it. Yes, so instruments and art are so important right now. So they're singing in Minnesota. They were here in Los Angeles way back in the summer. We had people doing line dances in the street at dance parties, literally dancing at the dance parties. So let me get back to, can you believe it's, oh, this is lovely. Andrea Lozano said that they dreamt that they met me and some of the subscribers. Wouldn't that be awesome if we had a big get together? I just think one day maybe we'll have a big get together. Yeah, you can also use these apps like 5Calls is so easy. You use that app and it helps, you don't have to look up your reps numbers. It gives you the numbers, it gives you a script. I also like the app ResistBot, where it gives you petitions to sign every day to send to your reps. It's really easy. Hey, Cork, Ireland. Welcome, Sister Ireland. Late to the party, better late than never. Okay. There's lots of things we can do, and there's lots of things we must do. And that's one of the things my guides were talking about this week. They were saying that everybody needs to get organized. There's enough of us that want to do something that if we all specialize in something, and then we just have like a few thousand people specializing on this topic and a few thousand, it's really going to be tens of thousands. But you only have to find one thing really to do and just stay on it. You don't have to address everything. Follow what you're most passionate about, right? What are you most passionate? Are you really most passionate about the files and about the survivors and about justice for them and about bringing awareness to how many women and children suffer in this way in this country? Like, if that's your thing that you're really passionate about, then just spend all of your time on that, right? Find organizations that focus on that. And so what they said is there's a critical mass of people who are doing something. We already have our critical mass, right? We have it. We're out there. We're doing it. But most of us who are in that critical mass are doing too much. And then there are other people who are doing the least or doing nothing except kind of complaining and crying and saying, oh, this is terrible. And so we need balance, because if people get burnt out, if the people doing too much get burnt out, they got to be replaced. So we need more people stepping up, and we need more people doing more. And the people who are doing too much need to rest more. And they gave me some examples like, okay, let's talk about healers. Let's talk about energy workers. Because one of the things that some people are doing is energetic work. Like the work that I do is energetic. I do it through my speech, but this is energy work, what I do online. And there are different ways to do energy work. So some people who are healers are like, oh, I'm at home sending light. I'm sending light to the light grid, or I'm sending light to the planet, or I'm sending light to the survivors. Well, what I said in an earlier video is that if you're doing now what you were doing before November of 2024, you're not doing enough, right? If you were already sending light, you were already a healer, and you're still doing that same thing, you're not doing enough, right? So what they said is you should be up leveling that. So like if you're a healer and before you were sending light to the light grid, or you were healing people, or maybe you're a therapist or something, you're helping people, what are you doing differently now? Have you contacted 10 other healers? You could get 10 other healers together and start having gatherings of 10 energy workers where you concentrate your energy work into a bigger cone of power, right? Where you come together and strategize about how best to use your gifts to help at this time in history, right? There needs to be an up leveling. Taking your gifts to a higher level. What as a healer are you doing that meets this moment, right? So that's what they talked about also this week. Are you taking extra classes to become a better healer? Are you working with other healers? Are you working with mentors? Are you up leveling your gifts? Are you learning how to apply what you learned, which was when you learned it was not for an apocalypse? Are you learning how to apply that to an apocalypse? And they were saying you're going to have to organize. Now this you is all of us. We all have to, we're talking about the United States right now. We're talking about the United States, talking about Americans. We all have to organize. So a lot of us are doing stuff, but we need to be more organized and like more disciplined. So they gave me some examples of like carving time out of your schedule every day or every couple of days to do something. So like we're good at doing that with work, right? We're good at doing that with exercise. We're good at doing that, right? We have a way of, Americans are very hardworking. We believe in work, right? Especially women. Women are like working for someone else, and they're taking care of the kids and the rest of the family and the food and the house, and right, doing way too much. Work, 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 work. How about we stop doing some of that, right? And instead put some of that energy into persistence. And so you got to tell these grown people, you're an adult, you can take care of yourself, wash your own clothes, clean up after yourself. I'm going to be in the persistence, right? And this is part of what's happening right now. Women are rising up, the matriarchy is rising up, the patriarchy is crumbling, the rise of the divine feminine. Women are saying no to a lot of nonsense. Women have been taking care of way too many people to their own sacrifice, to their own detriment. And so we know as women how to schedule time to take care of everyone and everything except ourselves. And so let's take some time out of that. Okay, kids, you got to do more chores. Okay, hubby, start doing your part. Get off of the couch. Stop watching TV all day and actually clean the house, right? Take the kids to school, right? Make their doctor's appointment, whatever. They got to guess. They need some jobs. They need some chores. And then, then the women can free up some of their time and then they could do more persistence work. And if you're a man who's, doesn't fall into that category of couch sitter, then you find something else, right, to take out of your schedule, and a lot more time for the persistence. And we got to have to start scheduling it, right? What am I going to do on a regular basis to contribute to the persistence? And what they said was, people are going to say, I don't have time. I don't have time. And they said, you know what? If you were in the middle of a war, guess what? You'd have time. But let's not wait until it gets to that point, right? Because we're in a kind of pre-war, right? We're in a situation where the circus is battling us, the people, right? And so in that way, it is kind of a war. We are battling for our republic. We are battling for our civil rights. We are battling for our neighbors. We are battling for our survival. And even if it's not affecting your physical survival right now, and for a lot of us, it's not. My physical survival, I'm not currently, I do feel scared, that something could happen to me any day because of the way I look. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm in my home, my physical safety is not on the line right now, the way it would be in a war. And so that means I do have the ability to participate in the persistence, however busy I might think I am, right? And so we all do have the ability to participate in the persistence. And it might help to just weave it into our everyday lives. And it's something that we kind of have to do, because if we don't do it, we'll be forced to do it, right? So let's say you normally have a coffee clutch that meets, once a month, and you guys normally just talk about whatever, right? Your families, the latest book you read, whatever. And then you decide, okay, at my coffee clutch every month, we're going to start talking about the persistence. And I'm going to say to my coffee clutch, I think we should maybe be folding up pamphlets while we're having coffee. I think we should be talking about strategies for persistence. Let's recommission this coffee clutch, or this book club, or this knitting club, or this whatever club that we're in, this PTA meeting. Let's recommission it as a persistence project. And that way you don't have to make extra time. You just use the time you already have and you remake it. So that's one idea. Okay, so back to my notes. So they said, going back to what my spirit guide said, they said it's not urgent enough for them yet. So there are some people who are saying, I don't have time. I don't want to make major changes to my life. I want to be comfortable. I want to keep living my life the way I live it. And they're able to say that or to believe that because it hasn't become urgent for them yet, right? So for the people who are immigrants, who are afraid to go to the grocery store, who are afraid to drop their kids off at school, who are afraid to go to work, it's already become urgent for them, and their life has dramatically changed and they don't have a choice, right? But for a lot of us, we're still able to go to the grocery store, right? And so what the guides were saying is, people need to feel the urgency of the moment. And the longer we wait, the more urgent it's going to be for more people, right? So right now it's urgent for some people, for a small group of people. But over time, that's going to be more and more people, right? Like they're going after, a particular group right now. They're going after immigrants, largely from Central and South America, right? That's been the focus. There has been a little bit of focus on Haitians and a few other Somalians, a few other Black immigrant groups. But it's been focusing. Someone said that my video is freezing. Can I hear from some other people if that's true, or if it's just that one person? Because if so, let's take a break and see if I can change something. I'm going to plug it into my Ethernet. It's frozen multiple times. Okay, so I'm going to switch to Ethernet. Okay, I just switched to Ethernet. So that will, if it's on my end, that will eliminate anything on my end. I do have a lot of windows open, but that's usually not an issue. But just in case it is, I'm going to close them. I have way too many windows looking at hiking gear because I want to walk the Camino. Okay, so I've just closed a bunch of windows, and I believe I have most of my files closed, which I did before I started, but I'll double check. Yep. So I only have one application open, and I'm on Ethernet. So there shouldn't be an issue on my side. When you go to another screen. Oh, when do I go to when I go look at my notes, it happens? Interesting. It freezes when I go look at my notes. Uh-oh. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go look at the notes and come right back. And I'm not going to keep looking at the notes. That way, if that's the problem, that's weird. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, there's some stuff I'm not allowed to discuss. Okay. All right, so I got more information I want to share. So I'm back here. So notes. Interesting. So whenever I look at my notes, it freezes. Interesting. The shenanigans is right. The shenanigans. All right, so I just had to remember them. So I just read over some of the notes from my spirit guides and a couple more things I want to share. They mentioned a couple of wealthy merchants who are going to try to turn. They mentioned Gady Gates, and they mentioned someone named Long or Longfellow. And then I don't know who Long or Longfellow is. That was just a name that my guides gave me. They also mentioned Switzerland as exposing some information financial related to the network, the bad traffic network, or maybe the power network. But they said that, we were talking about how there are certain powerful people who have decided that head clown is not so useful anymore. And so they're kind of making plans to take him down or take him out. Now, I did also see this week that it might be confirmation of that I saw that there actually are some reps who are putting in articles of peach cobbler this week. Can anyone confirm that in the comments that they actually are finally putting in the articles of peach? Frozen again. Huh. So why I'm not changing I'm not changing anything and it's still freezing. Okay, I'm going to try to close some more windows. I mean, I have very little open, so this is a mystery to me. You know, I do like to have a lot of windows open. So I have very few windows open now. I have no other applications open. I'm on Ethernet. I'm on a new computer. So I don't feel like it's on my end. But I'm going to keep talking because some people are saying someone said, no, it's not. Those are old messages. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking and hope that everyone can hear me. But I wanted to see what people had to say about the peach cobbler. Someone said it takes 4 people. And, oh, my memory needs to be cleared. Okay, maybe I could do that. Okay. All right, I'm deleting my cache. See if that helps. All right, so I just deleted my cache. All right, yeah, peach cobbler articles. So someone said that we need 4 people for peach cobbler. And yeah, so I guess there's no more news here. Just a lot of people like peach cobbler. Oh, I love this. Oh, look at this. What this person's reporting that they did EFT tapping with a group of 7 spiritual women, helped them all to bring down their fear, frustration, and exhaustion. Oh, that's so valuable. If you don't know about tapping, go look it up. You could just Google it. There's videos. I'm sure you can find a video. I took a course on it a while back with my dad. We had a lot of fun. And it's like you tap and then you say certain things while you're tapping, even though I'm really stressed out and exhausted right now. I deeply and completely love myself. Even though I'm stressed out and exhausted, I deeply and completely love myself. 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 And you go through and you tap at these different points in your body, making these affirmations. And it really helps you to address, stress and anxiety and whatever you're going through. I once did that, what you're talking about, in a cardiology waiting room. So I have a heart condition and I've spent a lot of time in cardiology waiting rooms. And I'm often in, and I've had this for like, more than 20 years. I got it really young. And so I often would be in these cardiology waiting rooms and with a whole lot of old people. I mean, I'm old now, but I was young back then. And I just remember, as a healer, as an empath, just feeling how so many people in that room were stressed out or were scared or were, sad. And so I remember one day I started getting the whole waiting room to do tapping with me. And there was this big glass window that like the nurses and could see us. And they all started gathering in their window from the office watching me. Watching us do coaching. EFT is really powerful. So anyway, that was a great testimony from that person. I should have kept your comment out because now I've forgotten your name. Yes, there's tons of, someone just said, where'd it go? He has, every time I try to get it, it moves. There we go. I don't know who he is, but Hope Suzanne says there are tons of free EFT videos on many subjects. So yeah, just go Google it. Because EFT is really, really helpful. And anyone can do it. So Janet has a question that I feel like answering. Do you guys believe that the real results of the big joust will ever be exposed? Yes, I do. And so that was an example of something that people could focus on in terms, we were talking about my guide saying we need to specialize, right? Everyone needs to specialize. So there's these two organizations, right? ETA and SMART, who have been specialized on collecting data and filing lawsuits specifically on this issue. And they've been working on this all year. Well, you can donate to them. You can also volunteer for them. And so, or you could form your own organization that's like them, right? So you can, this was actually one of the things my guys, so glad you asked this question because this was in my notes. I'm afraid to check my notes now that people say it's causing the screen to freeze. But one of the things the guide said this week was specifically about this. They gave this example. They said, if you're really interested in the joust, the shenanigans, and you want to focus all of your energy on that, you could do that, right? Because you could talk to ETA and SMART and ask them, what can I do in my town to collect data or challenge the results in my town? And they can give you some work to do, right? Or they can give you some ideas, or they can help you to figure out what you could focus on in your town. Like maybe you need to go to your, I'm forgetting the names now, but the person who's in charge of, I'm afraid to say certain words, but like the joust officials, let's call them that. You could go to the joust officials in your precinct and start asking questions or, raising concerns, right? So that could be, if that's your specialty, you could spend all your time on that, and you could gather people and have a certain number of voters that you gather from your precinct who are all concerned about this. And that could be what you specialize on. So I am gonna try to I don't understand this question. Sometimes when I get a question I don't understand, then I'm really my curiosity is piqued. Why do you outsource your intuitions? I don't know if this is directed at me or someone else. What does that mean? I don't know. Outsource your intuitions. Someone said I have that Gen X neurodivergent glow. We don't age. That's right. I'm Gen X and neurodivergent. I didn't know that was a thing, but okay. Oh, this person. So the person who asked about outsourcing intuition is now questioning whether or not I have guides. I had this friend. She doesn't really believe in psychic stuff. She's an academic friend, and I just casually talk about my guides to everyone. I don't care. I have no need to hide anything. I could care less if people don't believe in psychic work. It's like those days are over for me. When I was younger, I spent a lot of energy hiding my gifts and trying to appear normal, and I don't care anymore. And so this person I was just casually chatting with, and she said, "Oh, well, you call them guides, but it's probably just parts of you that you're, interpreting as guides. It's probably just your subconscious or whatever." And my reaction to that is, whatever makes you comfortable, if that's how you want to understand, if that's what's going to be more comfortable for you to understand my guides in terms of your mapping, whether it's psychology or whatever it is, your religious background, that's fine with me. I know what I know. I know I have guides. And yeah, on some level, we can understand our guides as being a part of us in the sense that we're all a part of each other. So, like, my higher self is a source of intuition. And so, yes, some of my guides, what I call my guides, are a part of my higher self, right? We're all a part of the same, like, oversoul. And so, yeah, I could think about it that way. I could say, oh, these are part of my higher self. For me, culturally, because of my background and because of the way I've been trained by my teachers, and because of my focus on helping people and being a teacher, it helps for me to use that language. Um, but whatever language people want to use is okay, right? Really, the only thing that we need to agree on is that the information is coming from a higher source than me, than Jennifer Lisa, the human, right? And so, yeah, my higher self is the source of it. Yes, my my spirit teachers are the source of it, different guides, angels, ancestors also give me information. When I go out of my body, when I communicate with different guides, it's not always the same people. That's why I say spirit guides. I just have a general term. Sometimes I'm talking to an ancestor. Sometimes I'm talking to Archangel Michael. Sometimes I talk to Metatron. Sometimes I talk to Corn Mother. I talk to the Great Mother. There's a lot of different, I talk to higher self. I talk to Shamuel. I could go through and I could specifically tell you who I'm speaking with, but it's not really important, right? You don't really need to know all of the entities that I speak to. And that's why I just use the term guides, spirit guides. It's an umbrella term. And yes, it includes my higher self. And if you say outsourcing, I'm going to try to interpret that just because, I'm curious. I might get it wrong. What my purpose is to use my gifts to be a messenger and a teacher and a healer and a way shower. And my purpose is to help people navigate these very difficult times. And my purpose is to help people to understand the spiritual significance of this political crisis. And my purpose is to help people get clarity about their life path and their purpose and what they came to do, and to get fully onto their path. And my purpose is to help people heal when they're struggling, when they're suffering. And my purpose is to help people to get clear about the fact that they have their own sovereignty. Okay. So that's my purpose. And so that's why I do this work. That's why I go onto social media. That's why I make YouTube videos. That's why I write books. That's why I teach classes. We all have our own purpose. And so if you're an intuitive person, maybe you're meant to use your intuition in a different way from the way I use it, because you have a different purpose, right? And so we just all have to get clear on that. What is my purpose? What did I come to do? How should I use my gifts, whether it's an intuitive gift or a different kind of gift, like the gift of speech or the gift of writing or the gift of art or the gift of dancing or the gift of organizing. What is your gift, and how can you use it to fulfill whatever it is you came to do, right? Oh, here's a question about a particular group I haven't heard of. The elders, the creators. Let me think about that for a minute. So sometimes when different people use different language, sometimes I recognize it, and sometimes intuitively I can just tune into it. I have worked with some beings called the creators. So the creators, from my understanding, are people who helped create our planet and all the animals and plants in it. And then there are creators that create other planets or other star systems, right? So these are beings that are in charge of kind of large scale creation projects. And as such, they're not really interested in the details of our lives, right? Like a creator being isn't going to be giving me information about my life or your life or the United States, right? And so I wouldn't have a lot of reason to speak to a creator doing the work that I'm currently doing, right? And that's the thing. The beings you speak to, it really depends on what the work is that you're doing. So, like, I mean, I have beings that I work with who are only here for me, who are only here to help me with my own healing or with, whatever I'm going through. Like I have this, guide I work with called the Great Mother, and she provides me with healing. And she doesn't provide me with anything else. She doesn't give me information to give to the people because that's not her role. And so same with the creators, like the kind of questions you would ask the creators that I'm aware with, they might be different from your creators, would be things about like why they created this planet, what the purpose of planet Earth is, or how the purpose of planet Earth fits into a galactic purpose. Like those are the kind of questions that a creator would be consulted about, right? So if that's who you're talking about, yes, I have. The elders, I'm not sure if that's the same as the creators. So we all have different language depending on who trained us, And so I have human teachers and I have spirit teachers. And so I've been trained by a lot of people, both in bodies and without bodies. Okay. So, I think there's some arguing in the comments that I totally missed. Someone said quibbling, play nice. Are my mods here? Is everyone okay? The Orishas, that's another group of beings that you can work with. For Orishas, there's never a set number of deities. The number is 400 plus. Right. I also work with Orishas because that's part of the training I received. I did receive some initiation from some powerful priestesses in the Orisha traditions. Okay. Okay, someone said there was no disrespect. Okay, good. I don't always know. It's like someone here said be respectful. So, someone said there was a troll and they reported them. Okay, thank you to Moon Beanification. I think you're one of my mods, right? They're supposed to have peach cobbler tomorrow. Okay, so we got a little bit of news here. Supposed to be a vote on peach cobbler tomorrow, on articles of peach cobbler. Okay, that's exciting. Oh yeah, hey, I also do communicate with trees. I do talk to rocks and animals and trees and rocks more than animals, only certain wild animals, mostly. Yeah, thank you, mods, for the invisible work that you do that keeps this a peaceful community. I like to get questions, and I'm also open to critiques, but I don't like people to argue with each other or disrespect each other in the comments. So sometimes if that happens, I really hope it doesn't happen. But my experience has been for this last year that I almost never have any of that in my lives or in my videos. Everybody's very nice and polite and loving. And I have just found this to be a wonderful community. And I do have some mutuals who complain about having bots or having trolls I just haven't had that experience. I've been very, very blessed. And part of it is because of my mods. And part of it is, I think, just the universe is taking care of us. This is why telling stories and having character and code names is fun, right? Like we got to lighten up, right? This is, some people get mad at me. I had someone today in one of my comments saying, can you just use plain language and stop using all these? And, part of it is instrumental, right? Part of it is necessary because of experiences I've had on these platforms with, but part of it is creative and artistic, and just let's bring a little levity to a really difficult subject, right? So let's talk about peach cobbler, right? We got to laugh, we have to keep it light so we can keep it moving, so we can be here for the long haul. Yeah, the Galactics. I also work with Galactics. Some of my guides are Galactics or star beings. I call them star beings. I don't know if that's what you mean by Galactics. You might mean something else. Okay. So Galactics as in like creator beings on a galactic level, maybe. All right. So I work with star beings who are like on these councils. So like some people have called it Galactic Federation, Star Federation. I've heard different names. But basically it's kind of like a council of representatives from different star systems, and they come together and meet. And sometimes I'm allowed to go to those meetings, and sometimes I'm given information to share. So I don't know if that's what you mean by galactic. Yes, this is a very sacred space. Okay, so we're at 2 hours. Oh my. I always get worried about going for too long. We still got 744 people here, so maybe I can keep talking. I'm going to go to my notes for a minute, so I hope you can still hear me. Oh, yes, let me talk about this other thing before we close. There's at least one more thing we can talk about from my spirit guides this week, and that has to do with psyops. Okay, there's this whole section in my notes where they said I can't share this, can't share this, can't share this. So I'm trying to get to the part where I can share. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'm going to share this part because it's very helpful. And so just side note, I don't share everything I get because sometimes I'm not allowed to, and sometimes I don't share it because I'm worried it will make people less hopeful, or that it'll scare people. And that's just because of what my purpose is, right? So there are other psychics whose job is to warn, right? And so they're going to tell you some scary things sometimes because that's their purpose, right? And now sometimes I might make mistakes and hold back things that I shouldn't have held back. And that did happen around the time of the inauguration, where I did get some bad feelings the day before. And I just was like, my guide said, you were so focused on hope that you refused to accept that message that day. But I did have a bad feeling. And then I was like, no, it's not going to happen. So sometimes, that will become a bias for me, right? It will get in the way. And that's why I'm not going to be 100% accurate. That's one reason. Also, just the fact that none of us are. But there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that I think is really hopeful, and that has to do with how we persist. One of the suggestions they made was PSYOP. And so PSYOP refers to psychological operations in warfare, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. People throw that word around now like we know what it means. We don't even know half the words we use. Do we even know what they mean? So that's my understanding of what PSYOP refers to. And the way that it was used by my guides was in that way. They said that, we are on the receiving end of that, right? We've been on the receiving end of that for quite a while, where there's this constant effort by the circus to shape the narrative and to give us alternate facts, right? To give us, false information, but to tell us that it's a fact. And that's a type of PSYOP, right? Where you're trying to manipulate people psychologically by giving them misinformation. And this has always been a tactic in warfare. So like one of the things that the United States did, I think, in Vietnam was they would drop these flyers, these pamphlets that were in Vietnamese, or, they've done this in different countries in different languages, with misinformation to say, oh, this is what's going on. Or they have Radio America, right, where we would broadcast our propaganda about how the United States is the best country in the world and we're here to save democracy worldwide, right? So and we're not the lots of countries do this, right? But we're kind of like celebrities in this field. Like sophisticated psyop is like, psyops are us. We got to laugh about this stuff, people. We got to, because sometimes it's just so absurd and it can become so overwhelming thinking about it. I mean, especially for me as an Afro-Indigenous person, I went to school and one of the degrees I got was in history, and I learned the history of all of the awful things that my country has done to my ancestors. I worked at the African American Library and Archives and actually set up the archives. And so I read all this stuff. And then I worked and set up Native American archives for different tribes. And so then unfortunately, I learned too much about the G-side and enslavement and all the terrible, terrible things. And it can become very overwhelming, right? When you know all of those things, it can become very overwhelming, and it can get to the point where it can kind of stop you in your tracks, where you can't do anything. It can make, what's that word, right? It can and so we have to find a way, right? The way that I've been able to live my life and to be a contributor and to be a healer and to help people is that I had to find a way to manage that information. And one of the ways I do it is with humor, right? With humor and with art. And so PSYOP, let's get back to this discussion of PSYOP. PSYOPs are us. It's like Toys R Us, right? PSYOPs are us. What the guide said was that the people need to start engaging in PSYOP. So the purpose of PSYOP is to manipulate, control, intimidate, and disarm your enemy psychologically. And they were saying that's happening to us, but we could turn the tables and we could do that to the circus, right? We could start engaging in our own PSYOP projects. And I found that really fascinating. And so this is an example of work that some of you can do at home, right? Like maybe you're an intellectual, maybe you're a thinker, maybe you're a writer, maybe you're a psychologist, right? And you could be one of those people who's thinking up, right, ways to come up with campaigns to intimidate the circus. Because what my guides were saying is that, the people are very powerful, but the people need to recognize how powerful they are. And also the circus needs to recognize how powerful the people are. And the circus needs to become afraid. And we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that a little bit. So they are afraid in Minnesota. So that's why they're withdrawing some of the people. And that's why they're changing their story, right? If you've been following this, the circus started to change their story about the pretty good people who were unalived, right? They're now doing an investigation. They're now declaring them homicides. They declared them unjustified. They're changing their rhetoric. Why? Because they are afraid of the people, because the people are so organized in Minnesota, and they're persisting. They're not stopping. They're like day after day after day, they're not stopping. And it's becoming a problem, right? Because of the way it's inspiring the rest of us. And that's causing them to be fearful, because if the whole country recognizes how powerful they are, the circus is in trouble, because the circus will be removed by the people. So we need to be thinking about that. That's what my guide said. Like, how can we do things to create fear in the circus, right? How can we be the architects of our own people-powered PSYOP against the circus, right? So that's something for us to think about. And for those of you who have a special skill with this, maybe you're in marketing, maybe you're in, human relations, human resources. Maybe you have a background in human resources. Um, I don't know. There's probably different backgrounds that would lend themselves to being able to think about this. Like, how do you create a certain narrative? How do you have a certain impact by certain actions or words, right? There could be a whole lot of people working on this, right? This could be a whole nother specialty, and that people could be working on. And so that's one of the suggestions that my guides made this week as well. So I think I'm gonna let me think about what else I want to share. If you want to buy me a coffee, I appreciate it. I'm supposed to, let's see. I have a new course out called Strategic Psychic. It's kind of an introduction to developing your psychic gifts. It's good for anyone who's been wanting to develop their gifts, or maybe you have gifts but you just don't practice enough. And this course kind of gives you some exercises to do, some ways to kind of hone your gifts. It's an on-demand class, which means it's pre-recorded. I've made all of these videos of me teaching you different things, then I give you exercises. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about it. There's a lot of material in it. It's not expensive though. It's my least expensive course. It's only $59. All of my other courses are a lot more. But it's still a lot of material for that small sum. So you can find it in my link tree or in my bio. I don't think I could do links in the comments, but if I can, I guess I need to learn about that. I could try. So I just wanted to mention that. And then I wanted to thank everybody who showed up and who's been here in this community. And I appreciate all your comments and your questions. I love this question from Hope Suzanne. Is it true that Denmark might take California under their jurisdiction? I hope so. I know they're offering to buy the United States, and a whole lot of Americans are saying, yes, please. And yes, our governor is engaged in a whole lot of things. Soft secession, right? So we're got our own relationship with the WHO. We've got our own relationship with Washington and Oregon. We're working with different countries outside of the federal. Yeah, we're doing a lot over here. Yeah, thank you, Indiana Smith, for that example too. Good example too during Black History Month, right? So our situation here is similar to what was going on in South Africa under apartheid, when South Africans realized they were 90% and the people running things were 10%, right? That kind of shifted their comprehension of, wait a minute, we can win. We can win. Lisa Lavender, I agree. Calling out the regime's inhumanity is something we have to continue to do. Oh, I forgot to show the comments. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a little button I was supposed to push so you can see the comments when you're watching, when it's not live anymore. Calling out the regime's inhumanity is something we have to continue to do. Love in the face of fear, care in the face of callousness, connection in the face of disconnection and threats. Yes, 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 that part. Umbulele ebabable. Oh, I know I got it wrong. Umbule ebable. Message received. Yeah, boycott Disney, Target, all your favorites, make it hurt. Oh, I like this. Someone said it about flags for each state. Yeah, remember that vision I had a while ago? They showed people raising sovereignty flags to show that certain areas had been liberated from the circus and they were sovereign, they were resistance cities. Well, I had that vision a couple weeks ago. And then what I saw just this week is that people are creating these let's say persistence stickers or tattoos of birds where every state has their own bird, but then they've created a design that's similar to Hunger Games design. And then people are kind of combining it also with Star Wars, the Rebellion. And so that's kind of exciting because what if everybody starts carrying those flags, right? Or hoisting those flags in their city to say, you know, we are members. Yeah, rebel birds. Someone said they're called rebel birds, right? What if we all raised our flags of rebel birds, or our resistance flags, or our whatever we want to call it, right? Sovereignty flags. That would be really, yeah, that would be powerful for us, but it would also be a good psyop, right? It would also be intimidating for them. Thank you, Jay Powell, for the super sticker. Yeah, that would be. So let's think about that, right? Oh, here, somebody did put the link. Thank you, Rossi. So there are my classes. I have a whole bunch of classes on my website that you could take. I know that you can't click it when it's a picture, but it is in the comments. I don't know if it's clickable, but you can just go to my website and then you'll find the courses there, including the Strategic Psychic one. Okay, here's a question. Is Starman EM physically involved in the shenanigans? So I talked a lot about this early on, like right after the joust. Yeah, he was the one that manipulated the tickets with his satellites. And so he was very heavily involved early on. Then they had a big fight. And so this kind of creates a problem because I think they were counting on him for the upcoming joust, and now they've fallen out. Now some people say they're still friends, and whatever. But I would say no, that they're not still friends, because we've had a blue wave in pretty much every single joust this year. So if they had access to his resources, that wouldn't have happened. So I see that as a sign that they're still on the outs. He's not cooperating. He's not assisting. He's not providing shenanigan assistance at this time. Doesn't mean he won't provide it in the future, but I don't think we need to worry about that. And like I said earlier, I don't think we need to worry about the midterms. I don't think that's something we should be focused on. I think that we have 8 months of a whole lot of persistence work that we need to do before we get to anything called a midterm, if we ever do. So that should not be our focus right now. Yes, lots more circus names are going to come out. And so what you should have noticed, if you are paying attention to the names coming out, the dominoes being revealed from the files, is that there's a whole lot of correspondence between staff of the circus and members of the bad traffic. And some of those names are coming out, and more are going to come out, because there's no honor among thieves, right? So they will fight amongst themselves, and they will betray each other and give each other's names out, and to save themselves. And so that's how more and more names are going to come out, is that they're all going to turn on each other more and more, and we're going to keep getting more information that way. Still freezing. Oh, man. Yeah, we got to think about the next months of persistence. That's what we got to focus on. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't really. So Helen Harris says, what about a world flag? We're not there. So that wouldn't serve our current purposes. Yeah, that's like the ultimate goal, is that everyone eventually we're going to be unified into one world. But that's not where we are now. And so you have to think strategically. You have to think, like, if you just held up a world flag right now, it would not be perceived as an act of persistence. It would not be perceived as something that was challenging the circus, right? It might just be seen as, oh, there's some peace lover, right? Peace lovers are not always seen as a challenge, right? As someone we need to be worried about. And so the idea of the rebel loons, or the rebel the sovereignty flags or the persistence flags is direct challenge, right, to the circus, to the hegemony of the circus. Um, but it's not just that. It's also about local community, which is one of the things my guides have also been talking about for some time, is from starting, like, those who've been following me now, remember so long ago they said we all need to get into groups of 4. We all need to get to know our neighbors, make sure you know 3 of your neighbors, like get to know people, that we have to start working locally. So like all of my work, I mean, I work online globally, but I've also been working locally with my community right here where I live. And there were times when I was like, oh, I should go to, like, I did go to a couple of downtown LA things. I was medicating. And then I realized, you know what? I don't live there, right? Like, yeah, I'm a part of this larger metropolitan area, but I live in Long Beach. And so let me focus on Long Beach. We have a whole lot of things going on here. We had like 5 dance parties last week. So we have a lot going on here. I don't have to go to DTLA, right? And I think a lot of times we think, oh, we've got to go to the bigger place or but really we all need to focus on where we are, your neighborhood, your town, your village, your city, right? So I live in a city of 500,000 people that's inside a much bigger, right, city of LA. But 500,000 people is enough. Like, I have enough people here to work with. Whatever size your little hamlet is, you could begin to organize there, right? And that's what's beautiful about these rebel flags or these rebel stickers, these rebel tattoos, is that it's giving people a sense of local resistance and also a unified persistence, right? And so it's got a lot of power in it, I think, symbolically, creatively, and also, psychologically or energetically. What you should notice, just in closing, I'm going to say one more thing. We still have 700 people here, so I'm like, I really should close this down and spend 2 hours. But one more thing. Oh God, now I just forgot what that thing was that I was going to say because I got distracted. About we all have a role to play. But one of the things I wanted people to pay attention to was, and it just disappeared again. That's funny. They want me to say that maybe. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that. I do have my own internal sensors. I want us to be proud of ourselves for all that we've accomplished. A lot of us are doing a lot of things. People are organizing. People are coming together. People are rising up. People are waking up. And it's happening, right? It's happening. And so, keep believing in that. Have faith. Have faith in our ability to overcome. Have faith in our ability to win this, right? Whenever you feel yourself getting overwhelmed or feeling despair, focus some of your energy on people who are doing things, and allow yourself to get inspired again. I mean, that's what I do. Especially if I get down or I start feeling worried, I try to find someone. Go online, like, oh, let me find someone who's doing something that I can feel inspired by. So I was really inspired by those tattoos, those rebel tattoos and the rebel birds. I want to get a t-shirt. I haven't seen flags yet, but maybe that's next. But I was really inspired by that. I guess also because they were using like a soundtrack from Star Wars, and I'm a Trekkie. I like Star Wars. I like Star Trek more, but I like all that stuff, all the sci-fi. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna close the live, and I want to thank everyone for coming. Someone asked if I was on Discord. I'm not. I am on Substack. I'm also on Blue Sky, and I just joined that new one, Upscrolled. And I don't post on there enough, but I'm trying to start posting in more places. So I've posted a little bit over there. Um, so yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Spirit Teacher. On TikTok, I'm Ethical Psychic. On YouTube, I'm Jennifer Lisa Best. And then on Blue Sky, I'm Ethical Psychic. On Upscroll, I'm Ethical Psychic. On Substack, I'm Ethical Psychic, I think. So you can find me in all of those places. And I love that. I end with this lovely thank you for your generosity, goodwill, humor, and great spirit. Thank you for those kind words. All of your kind words really do matter to me. They encourage me to continue this work. They allow me to believe that I'm making a difference. And so I really appreciate all of your kind words that are in comments or in on my videos or in the chat here. Some people send me DMs and emails, and I appreciate all of it. Can I share the links? They are in my bio. If you go to the description in my YouTube channel, it has all my links. I have a link tree, which has all my, actually it doesn't have the newer links. Come to think, I don't have Blue Sky and Upscrolled in there yet because I've just joined them more recently. But I have my Instagram in there and my TikTok and my books and my classes and stuff. So I have to add those other links. I have to add those. So thank you, everybody. And I will see you next time. I'm usually here every Thursday at either 4 or 5 PST for a live. And I post like every other day on YouTube and TikTok. So I will see you in my next video or my next live. Thank you.